artists, how are you today? Kano here. We are back with a video on the things I have bought in April that is art related. There's been a lot of paints which have been quite expensive months for me, and then some other tools that I want to share with you. I want to make the haul videos each month to be quite a chatty, relaxed ones where I can show you what I bought and maybe do a little bit of swatches and things. And then at the end, I'm going to show you some footages of Jazz and give you an update on how Jazz is doing. First up are some Daniel Smith watercolor paints. And I'm sure you've seen these lots on my channel this month, as these are the paints I bought for the Daniel Smith Color Showdown series. I say I bought it for this series, it's actually the other way around in that I wanted to update my own palette, and I had like the basic colors down that I was happy with, but I wanted to add some fancy colors. And if you remember from my swatching flip through, I swatched all the Daniel Smith colors that are on their 240 color dot cards, and there were several colors that I really liked, but they were really similar to maybe like another one I liked or a paint that I already had. Because we only get small dots of paint, it's actually quite hard to tell the difference between some of these. Like, I mean, once you get to the earthy colors, they, you know, a lot of them are quite similar, and you're like, I don't understand what the differences are. And so I ended up having to buy the paints, and obviously they were really expensive to buy so many in one go. It really stretched me personally financially. And I thought, well, if I'm questioning what is the difference between, say, Moonglow and Shadow Violet, then I'm sure other people are asking these. And so I thought, well, I can't be the only one who is confused or, you know, struggling to decide which is the better one for them. And that is basically how the Daniel Smith Color Showdown started. As I said, these are some of the paints that are for the Daniel Smith Showdown that I bought this month. I have left a few out because I want it to be a surprise for the next 4 episodes what colors those are gonna be, but you have seen these. If you haven't seen my color showdown, or if you're looking at these and going, oh hang on, I haven't seen that one, I've left the links to each one of the videos down in the description below. There is also a playlist that I keep updated with all the episodes, which I will also leave a link down below. I do have a nice good collection of these swatches now. And this is the Moonglow, and if you want to see, you know, these colors in detail and explanation of what all of them are and what I think of each color, then again check out the series called Daniel Smith Color Showdown, because I go into far more details in those series about each color. This is Shadow Violet, this is Green Apatite Geniune, Undersea Green, Rose of Ultramarine, so beautiful, Imperial Purple, Phthalo Turquoise, one of my favorite colors ever, Ultramarine Turquoise, Perylene Violet, Perylene Maroon, Cascade Green, and Perylene Green. I think what I'm gonna do with these is to get a A3 folder, because this length is A3. It's a little bit narrower on this side, but this length is A3, so it should fit nicely, and then I can have a nice folder archive of all the colors we cover in the Daniel Smith Color Showdown. Doing this exercise has been phenomenally useful for me personally in understanding each paint, but also in the comments under each video. You guys have been amazing and sharing your experiences with these colors and how you use each color in your own art, which has been amazingly useful for absolutely everyone, because I'm still a beginner at this. So as much as I now understand what these colors look like, I'm still quite unexperienced at how to use them. So thank you so much for the far more experienced watercolor artists out there who are leaving comments and giving us advice on how to use them. I really do appreciate that. The only color that we haven't done in the color showdown, and is not going to be in certainly this season, is Bordeaux, and This was just a color I fell in love with when I did the swatches, and for no rhyme or reason I had to get it. You know, when you just fall in love with a color and you have no reason why you should get it, but you just have to get it. Well, Bordeaux for me was that color. Next up are some more watercolors, and these are handmade watercolors. Now the tin isn't new. This is the first palette I ever put together that was like my own palette, and I think the tin was from Jackson's, I think. But back in October last year, in 2017, when I did the paint 300 paintings in 30 days, these were the colors I used for that challenge, and this was the palette that had the paints in it. Since then, I've moved on to using bigger brushes, so even the full-size pans aren't quite practical for me, and therefore for this metal tin wasn't practical for me anymore, so I cleaned it all out. I passed the paints on to somebody else. But then I encountered Dan from Penholder Art UK's handmade paints, and they were so beautiful. They were my first handmade paints that I ever tried, and I fell in love with them, and I bought 4 in the end, and I am turning this palette into handmade paints palette, because most people that make handmade paints put them in either half pans or full pans, so I thought this would be ideal as it was just sitting around doing nothing, and I felt really sad about that because I'm really attached to this metal tin for what it represents as like a starting point on my watercolor art journey. Anyway, let's talk about the paints themselves so you know what colors you bought, which I think is really nice. So the first one is Ultramarine Blue, and this is the famous Dan's Blue. I think we should just call it Dan's Blue. Can we all agree to that? Dan's Blue. And of course, Dan, if you don't want it to be called Dan's Blue, we won't call it Dan's Blue. But if you don't say anything in the comments down below, then we will call it Dan's Blue. Well, I will call it Dan's Blue. And this is the most beautiful ultramarine blue in the world that I've ever seen. So I highly recommend when he launches the next batch of paints to check that out for sure. Next on along is the Manganese Blue, and this is the genuine Manganese Blue. It's not a hue, it's the real deal. So congratulations to Dan for making such beautiful watercolors. Speaking of handmade paints, now don't worry, I am not going to get into hand making paints, certainly not yet. I don't have the character, the personality to be patient enough to actually mold my own paints from scratch. However, because my videos on the retired Holbein colors was so popular and everyone really loved the colors, particularly the Miyazaki colors, I thought it would be great fun if I mix up large batches of them and fill, you know, half pans with them and start making them available for you guys on my soon to be open Etsy store. I think what I'm going to do is make up a set of 4, which is the 3 Miyazaki colors, plus the compost green number 2, because that color was so beautiful. I can't like miss that out. And then it fits nicely into a tin as a set of 4. As well as I am going to make the other 3 colors too, which were the blue grays, the the Mars yellow and the compost green, and make a dot card with all 7 of the retired Holbein colors as well. And for doing that, I have bought many little half pans. There's more of them. This is just some of them, and I think they're just so cute. Lots of paint and some empty tubes as a adventure in trying to fill them as a way to store. Because what happens is if you fill a pan to the top and let it dry, the paint shrinks and therefore it gets lower, the level gets lower, and it looks like you're being cheap. So what you tend to have to do is, once that has dried or shrunk sufficiently, come back and put a second layer on, so that once that dries it actually looks like a full pan. And in order to do that, I need a way to store the paints for like a week or 2 while the first layer dry, and then I can put the second layer so that I can provide a consistent color between the first layer and the second layer. Because we all know it's entirely impossible to try and mix the exact same shade again, by hand anyway. So that is going to be my little project for next month, and I think I might do either a live stream, if I can get the live stream thing happening, or a video of me mixing large batches of paint, because I just find paint mixing videos so soothing. Next thing I bought was this. I actually bought this in March from China on Amazon, and it took quite a while to get here, but it is here now, so it gets included in this haul. And what this is, if you haven't guessed it already, is a paint tube crimper, or it could be any tube crimper. And what it does is you put your tube in here and you turn the key, and it basically pushes all the paint out of your tube to this point. I mean, we can't get that good at squeezing paint by hand, can we? And I have tried it on couple tubes. I'm really sorry I don't have one to show it to you. I only had couple tubes. It is very effective in getting the last bit of paint out. You get about, I'd say about that much of, you know, when you pour it out, that line of paint, about that much extra out of a tube. So I think I paid about £3 for this, which is what, like $5 maybe? Maybe that's optimistic on the strength of the pound, maybe $4. And so this is totally worth its money in saving you paint, because paint is expensive and we want to get every last bit, right? So I'm really glad I bought this. It's very, very effective. The only thing that I would add is a better handle, because you have to hold it like this and twist at the same time, and this bit digs into your hand quite a lot. So if I was being spoilt and being picky, then I would probably put a nice, you know, a cover on these so that it doesn't dig so much. You do need a bit of strength in your hand, so if you have like arthritis or any difficulties in gripping, you might find this difficult to use. So I think this is going to be a very low-key but very useful tool in my studio. Next up is a very kind gift that Eve from Eve Bolt sent me. I sent her a Sennelier dot card with all the colors of the Sennelier paints. From here onwards in the video, it's quite exciting for me, because yesterday, like, all the parcels came at once, and so all these art supplies that you'll see from this point onwards in the video are all totally new to me. I only received it yesterday. I haven't had a play with it. So this is the section where I'm gonna be like, ooh, with you guys, and also maybe do some swatching and trying out of things to give you my first impressions of them. This is some tools I bought to do a gold gilding on my art. I thought that might be a nice addition to my artwork, and obviously not real gold. I went for the imitation gold. And by the way, imitation gold leaf is really affordable nowadays. Like, I remember, you know, several years back when I first got interested in gilding, the imitation gold leaf weren't that cheap. Like, it was cheaper than gold for sure by a big margin, but it wasn't that cheap. Whereas nowadays, gold leaf imitation is really, really affordable. I know this says Sennelier oil pastel, and it really confused me because by coincidence, the box was for ultramarine blue oil pastels. As you guys know, I'm completely obsessed with ultramarine blue at the moment, and I was like, did I order an ultramarine blue paint and I didn't read the description well and I bought an oil pastel? But no, it's just a box, and I was quite relieved when I opened the box that it wasn't a ultramarine blue pastel. But what this is, that I figured out later on, is a tape of gold leaf. So you can kind of see this subtle gold sheen. I will peel it for you so you can have a look. But you know, the gold leaves usually come in like square sheets, which is what's inside this box is. But nowadays from Jackson's you can get, see these, it's not tape because it's not sticky, but it's like a roll of gold leaf. imitation gold leaf. And I'm being so careful here because they are very delicate things. And what it is, it's 50-meter roll, and you can get them in various lengths, which I thought was really good value and really good idea, because like my initial ideas for putting gold leaf into my artwork are linear work. So these are actually really practical for me. You know, I won't have to sit there and try to cut gold leaf, which could be potentially a nightmare. So I'm really grateful that Jackson's make these available. These are Hanover. Do you pronounce it Hanover? Handover? It is spelled Handover, but I have a feeling it's pronounced Hanover, maybe? I don't know. That brand. And yeah, that's their range, and you can get it narrower or much wider than this. Really handy. I also bought 2 gilding mediums. I didn't know which was better, so I thought I'd just try both, because these are really affordable at this size, and it's fantastic that companies make them available at these wee sizes so that we can give it a go and see how we feel without spending a lot of money. This is an agate tool, and I've wanted one of these for ages. I've seen it on telly when, you know, like artisans are doing the gilding, and basically you just rub the gold foil with the agate and it kind of polishes them. It makes them shine more. And I've always wanted one of these, partly because, you know, I've been fascinated by gilding before, but also when, you know, like on watercolor paper and you put masking tape on, and when you take it off, sometimes it rips. I find that these, if you just rub them gently with an agate stick, it doesn't make the peeled bit come back, obviously, but it makes them less obvious, because you can just rub the pulled up fluff down so that you can kind of, you know, make it less obvious that the tape ripped the top layer of your paper off. Obviously, it wouldn't work if you're going to paint over it, you know, that's still going to give it that weird texture. But if it's just like a border and you ripped some of the paper off the border that is going to be unpainted, this tool is really, really handy for that. They come in all sorts of shapes and sizes, so you can pick whatever shape that suits your project best. I bought 2 sets of the square traditional gold leaf. This is 14 centimeters by 14 centimeters with 25 leaves in each booklet. And I bought one that is the standard imitation gold leaf, and this one is the premium imitation gold leaf. And there's barely any price difference between the two, so I thought, why not? And I wanted to see which one would work with what I want to use it for best, because the big difference between the two are the kind of hue of the imitation gold, and I didn't know if like the richer gold would work or the more yellowy gold would work. So we'll see how it goes, and I'm too scared to get them out of the bag, but there is 25 sheets in there, and I think it was like $3 per booklet for 25, which is amazing value. I'm sure within the next month or 2 you might see a video of me trying to gild for the first time. I don't know, which would you prefer? Would you prefer like a video of me trying it for the first time and figuring it out and talk you through like stuff that I've learned as I go along, or do you want me to just go away, learn it, and then tell you like a pro on all the things you should do as if I know what I'm talking about? It's up to you. It depends on what you want to see. I'm happy to make either of those videos, although I don't think I'll ever become like a professional gilder. Is that even the word? See, I don't even know what the word is. But I can, you know, I can do like a beginner's, oh my god, look at me fail at things video, or a, hey, I've gone away, I've learnt this, I know a few things, I can tell you. Next up are some brushes, and you know I've just got them because they still have those caps, and this is still in shape. But these are the, ooh, I like it when they line up unintentionally, thank you. These are the Escoda Ultimo brushes. Now they are made in Barcelona, and these are Eve's favorite brushes, and I thought, well, I have to give it a go, you know, if she likes it that much. And I normally use these brushes, which are the Pro Art Perylene Plus brushes, and these are British brushes, and these are what I normally use. They're both synthetic brushes. Stop moving. Okay, no, we're still gonna move. Okay, I'm just gonna hold it down. And these are great. They're my little workhorses that will do anything, but they're not very good at pointy things. You know, I always say in my videos that I don't recommend these if you are like illustrator or you want fine work. These are just good for loose works. And Eve does more detailed works and more finely controlled works, which means these brushes must be better at like the pointy things. So first up is the size 10. This is the smaller one I bought. Size 10 is usually my standard go-to brush. Well, this is a nice brush. It soaks up a lot more water and this paint than my Pro Art Perylene Plus brushes do. It keeps going and going and going and going. Wow. Okay, I love these brushes already. This is just with one dip in the paint. Goodness, how much water do you hold, brush? Excuse me? It just keeps going. So I was going to use this paper, one sheet, to test all of them. But that might not work out. Okay, is that getting dry now? No, it still goes. Wow. That is amazing, and I guess that's the difference between just a standard synthetic brush and this is supposed to be a synthetic squirrel imitation. And yeah, it just keeps going. I mean, yeah, it's getting drier, but there's still plenty there. Okay, I think we are dying now. Yeah. Wow. Okay. So in comparison, I give you a size 10 Pro Art Perylene Plus, and we see what we can get. Let's try this. I'm trying to keep it similar length to this. Yeah, like you can see it's different, right? I mean, it's drying already. Yeah, I'm completely out of paint. So the Escoda brushes hold a lot more water than my Perylene Plus, and so I think these are going to be amazing for what big washes and stuff. And yeah, thank you for recommending them. I love them already. I will do a full review of these brushes at some point as soon as I've had a good play with them and learned the difference. I'm just really curious as to what this can do, so I'm gonna do a little quick dip. I've always needed a mop brush and I've never been able to find a good mop brush. I am using my standard Fabriano Academia mixed media paper. It's my go-to in terms of just doing stuff like this, you know. Whoa. Oh, that's nice. paper with. Wow, that holds a lot of water. I think that's about it. No, there's still more. Wow, we almost covered the whole paper with one dip in the paint. That is amazing in terms of how much water this holds. I'm really happy with it. That's so much easier than my Pro Art flat brushes. I think this actually holds way more water. So this is going to be my new favorite wash brush. And I love that it keeps its shape like this. It actually makes, it's like goat brush. Goat brush, I hear, does this same thing of it stays in the shape you leave it at, which is really handy for certain techniques when you come to paint. So I think what might be happening is as I wear out my Perylene Plus, which actually takes an enormous amount of time because they are such good workhorses and you can put through them a lot of work and they don't really age that quickly. It's going to take time, but as they wear out, I might be replacing them with the Escoda Ultimo. You can get these open stock or as a set from Jackson's. I'll leave the link down below again. And you can also get travel size brushes, you know, that looks like the old-fashioned lip brushes that can be like half of the length when you're not using it. Yeah, it has my stamp for sure, and I'm definitely liking it. So thank you very much, Eve, for always recommending this brush to everyone. Next up are some paints, some watercolor paints, and these are from Kremer. Now they did make a mistake and send me two of the same colors rather than two different ones. I've emailed them about it, and I'll see if I can get them to send me out the correct one. So I will leave this one out. So initially I bought 6 different colors. I only have 5 for this video. I went on to Kremer to check out their handmade paints. They are pigment makers from Germany, but they also do some of their pigments in a pre-made watercolor format. Now I haven't played with this. All I have done is just label them so that when I take it out for this video I don't get confused as to what's what, and you don't have to watch me label them. I went through the whole range of pre-made watercolor paints and I just picked out the ones that I was really attracted to, and apparently I was really attracted to the blues and greens at the time because I ended up buying just blues and greens. So the colors I have bought are Cobalt Blue Greenish, Ultramarine Green, Cobalt Blue Turquoise Light, Ultramarine Blue Very Dark. Of course I had to try the Ultramarine Blue, and the Cobalt Green Bluish A. So what I'm going to do is take them out of their packaging again, and then we can have a little swatching session and see what we think about them. I'm going to be using the size 10 Escoda brushes for this. Why not, since I have it. And this is the Ultramarine Blue Very Dark. That is a very, very bright blue, like really bright. Don't know if it's coming across in the camera, but it's a very intense kind of blue. Next up is the Cobalt Blue Greenish. I probably should pre-wet all of this actually, because there's quite a few cobalts in there, and they are harder to re-wet than most colors. There we go. So the cobalt blue greenish. Cobalt blues to me are, whoa, okay. So what I was gonna say was cobalt blues are usually quite disappointing for me because their colors aren't very bright, and you have to really work at it to get the paint out, and then you only get like this is kind of the amount I'm used to in getting with the cobalt blues. Whereas this is nice. This is really bright. It's also quite opaque, I think. I'll have to test it, but wow, that is intense. That is the brightest cobalt of any color I've ever seen. Wow, I'm really impressed. So next up is cobalt blue again, but this one is turquoise light, and I think it's a really cute color. We'll see how. Whoa. That's a nice color. I'm really impressed with the pigment load on these. Like, they're so intense. I have really underestimated the power of cobalts. Maybe I just didn't encounter a good cobalt until now. I'm really impressed at how well these re-wet as well. I've not really had to scrub at them. This is cobalt green bluish A, which I assume means there is a B of this. Okay, so this is a little bit more, this isn't as pigment loaded as the others. This is what I'm kind of used to seeing in the cobalts, which is slightly lighter, softer colors. So these two I'm really impressed with. And then we are going for the Ultramarine Green. That noise, if it recorded, was my neck that just cracked. Wow. Oh, hang on, let me get some more of that. That's a nice color, isn't it? Oh, wow. That is beautiful. Oh, I am in love. Oh, that is nice. I really like this. By the way, I wear sunglasses when I film these because I'm actually quite sensitive to bright lights, and obviously I have lights for better camera recording, but it's way too bright for my eyes, so I have to keep like taking my sunglasses off and on and off and on to see what color these are. But I mean, we'll see how, when they are dry, what they look like, but that is beautiful. I think of all of these, that's my favorite. That is a beautiful, it's what I imagine like Prussian green should look like. It is beautiful, beautiful color. These are some of the Kremer paints they have pre-made on their website. I've left a link in the description below for them as well. And my first impression is that they are super easy to re-wet. They have really good pigment load, and the colors are very, very beautiful. So I highly recommend these. They're quite good value as well. I think they're like €6 each, which isn't bad for full pan prices. And also, like, if you're interested in making paints for yourself, I guess this is like a really good way of testing out their pigments, because these are made from pigments Kremer sells, you know, individually without the binder. But you can test out what the colors are going to be like without having to go through the hassle of figuring out the right recipe for each one of these shades. You can just go, oh yeah, I like say this one, I'm going to buy the pigment for it, and then figure out my own blend with like whatever binder or medium you want to use. So I think these are great ideas, and I really, really like them. Next up isn't a haul as such, but just a wee little idea that I came up with that I've been finding quite useful, and it's not like a big enough deal to make a video out of it, but I really wanted to share these with you. You might have noticed that there hasn't been many painting videos where, you know, I just paint my own artwork, and part of that reason is because of my ill health. It's actually quite hard for me to just sit down and paint like a big painting from start to finish, and I like to paint huge normally. I like to paint at least like 50 by 70 centimeters, if not like just the full imperial sheet, but that obviously takes a lot of energy. So I've not had the energy to paint such large pieces. So I've been pottering around, you know, doing all these mixings and swatchings, and they are fantastic and great because you learn so much about the paints themselves, and it's a great way of keeping yourself in the painting swing of things without too much pressure. However, I wasn't painting pieces. I was kind of feeling quite intimidated about taking on, you know, big paintings when my energy was quite low. And then I've been doing the Daniel Smith Color Showdown, and the way I create these sheets is that I can get 3 of these sheets out of a whole imperial size that I designed it to be as efficient as possible in terms of having enough space, but then also being as efficient as possible with my paper. Basically what happens is, here's a full imperial sheet, and I cut it exactly like that. That's, you know, the color each color swatching with the blah blah whatever's mixing. And I use these 3 sheets. There's no like waste paper this way, and I use these for the Daniel Smith color swatching series, but then I was left with this strip of long pieces of paper, and I had quite a few of them. I was like, what do I do with them? So what I ended up doing with them, because we don't want to waste paper, is to cut them into little squares and also rectangles. And what I did was taped all of them around the edges to create a border. And so I got a whole stack of these, and I thought, well, you know, if I want to create little pieces or whatever, then I have them. And since I started having this stack of paper, it's been really good, because I'll just grab them when I have some interesting paint mixes or whatever, and I just want to play. So it's been a great playground for me, and it's always really important in our creativity to have a little playground or a way or a tool that will help you just play instead of pressure yourself with like big final pieces and it has to be right and whatever, because that's where you start discovering new things. And so I've been painting these, and these I think are like starting to turn into a little series, so I might start sharing them on places like Instagram if you guys are interested in seeing them. But this is a small stack that I've started. So this is Dan's blue. I just painted like 3 layers of them because it was just so beautiful, and I'm obsessed with this color. And this again is the same blue. I just wanted to play with the different mark making tools. And then because I've been doing a lot of mixing, whenever I discover an interesting mix, then I've been doing these kind of little swatch sketchy things. So this is transparent red oxide with the ultramarine blue I discovered when I was researching into neutralizing the blue. And then this is transparent red oxide again, but with a phthalo blue yellow shade, and it creates these rich hues of blue that are just lovely. And this is the same again with the transparent red oxide and the phthalo blue, but I kind of made it more separated than this. This was like mixed, pre-mixed in the palette, whereas this is more mixed on paper. Another combination that I discovered neutralizes beautifully is the Bordeaux by Daniel Smith and the Hooker's Green, and this one I think was Holbein's Hooker's Green. And you can't really see it here, I couldn't bring it out, but when you do like a really strong concentration of those 2 colors, you get this really gorgeous inky bluey color that is just perfect. And then this again is just the ultramarine blue, and I was just playing with different concentration of the blue in the water, and I think that created a really interesting pattern. So this is just like a little tip thing, you know, if you're feeling quite intimidated by painting pieces, you know, big pieces, and you've got lots of scrap paper, then it might be fun to cut them down to size, have a big stack of them. I always go for having plenty of everything I need, as much as I can afford to, because then I'm not feeling so pressured, and it's not so precious, and I don't have to get it right. I can get it wrong, and I can just play with things and have fun and discover new things. I think this is definitely a practice, a tool that I am going to... Hello? Light? Okay, I'm sorry, that light just died, but I am nearly done, so I'll just finish off over here in the light. So I think it's a great tool for me that I'm going to keep long term, that I'm going to keep up in my studio practice. Now on to Jazz. She has been amazing in the last month. She has come on miles in terms of her taming. We've now got her down to a stage where she is so happy to be on her hands. She has got to a point that she likes to use us as a free lift to get from her cage to her playpen. So we have her cage, and then to the side we have a big playpen for her, so that, you know, she can have a change of scenery and have a play around. And we usually put a bendy tube between the two so she can come and go as she pleases. However, she has taken to wanting us to lift her out of the cage and carry her Royal Highness to her Royal Highness playpen. And so she's now so comfortable. The other day James was changing some stuff on her cage while she was in the playpen, and I was playing with her, and she just sat in my hand and watched James. She just supervised James doing stuff to make sure that everything was done right, and it was hilarious because she never usually stops. She's just so hyper and she's always moving, but at that moment she just stood really still and just watched and supervised what he was doing. So she is getting on leaps and bounds. Unfortunately, one thing we have noticed is that she doesn't like bright light. Now, hamsters don't have very good eyesight, and many of them do go blind in their old age, and it doesn't affect their quality of life because they rely mainly on their sense of smell. So I have noticed that her eyesight seems to be not as good as my previous hamsters, for example. However, it's not a huge worrying thing for a hamster. It's quite normal, and it doesn't affect their quality of life. The one thing that she doesn't seem to like are bright lights. She is a lot like me in that sense, so I understand her pain. But when we put on lights that are bright enough for us to be able to film her for you guys, she freaks out and she gets really stressed. So obviously we haven't been doing that. We just keep her at a low light situation. Of course, means that we can't actually film her like running around on her hands, up her arms, and like on my head, for example. She did try that many times. She likes climbing into my hair. It's apparently a nice comfortable nest. But we can't film that for you because that happens at night when she's most awake and she doesn't like bright lights. However, we did manage to film her on a very rare morning when she was up and awake, and that's what you're seeing here. She's growing fast. I think she must be fully grown by now in terms of size. She's big. I think James did a fantastic job in taming her, so thank you very much for doing such a great job, James. Anyway, so that's the end of the video. Thank you so much for sticking by all this time. I really appreciate you watching my art haul and talking about jazz. If you've enjoyed this video or you've learned like a new art supply that you didn't know before, then please give this video a thumbs up because that really helps this channel grow. If you have any questions about any of the products I've shown you, please ask away in the comments down below. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, then please hit the subscribe button and the notification button. Thank you so much for watching this video. Thanks for sticking by to the end of this video, and I will see you in the next video.